Hey guys, it's Kim here with Fairly Fiber Fun. Thanks for joining me on this mulch wool experimental spin. So, I had this wool that I had skirted off of some fleeces and I threw it in the garden and just left it. And the rain has washed the majority of the dirt away, but has not removed the lanolin or veg matter. So, I thought that I would experiment with this and see, can you comb wool in the grease? And that is a little bit of a complicated answer, but I will get to that in just a moment. So I am loading up my combs. I try several different methods to get the easiest on my body results. Um, so while I'm loading up the combs and starting to do the first bit of combing, let me welcome new viewers. If you are new to the channel, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss new videos as they come out. And as always, leave your comments, questions, and suggestions in the comment section below. So today's video is actually in two parts, which is why this video is so long, because I am spinning two yarns here. First, I am combing a bunch of wool, and that didn't go very well. I'm going to spin the combed wool and then card up the combing waste that was usable and then spin that as well. So you will see that spin after I'm completed this one. But anyway, I quickly discovered that this wool is very, very, very difficult to comb because of all the lanolin, and some of it is matted from. That's probably why I skirted it off, because it was a little bit matted, and then being rained on didn't help. I am using my Magicraft extra fine mini combs. I love these, but they are not the easiest tool to use for this particular wool. So I am thinking I might need to get the not quite as fine combs next from Magicraft and just see, you know, if they do better with certain wools than these do. Now, I love how these remove the veg matter and the neps and all of that. It's just really hard. You can see me struggling a bit here. It is really hard to comb this. And as we progress through this video, you will see me often stop and rest a moment or dry my hands. My hands were getting oily and sweaty, and it was hard to hold those handles. And then it was hard to remove the wool. This is some of the combing waste I decide is no good, and it goes on the floor. Never mind. Apparently, that was the stuff that was good, and I saved it for carding later. The voiceover me does not remember the recording me part very well. Anyway, once I am done combing, which I do a total of 4 passes, then I'm trying to hand diz without a diz, just pull it off as comb top. And this stuff does not want to draft, doesn't want to pull off the combs, and it does want to stick to my hands, but I made a little nest. Now I am speeding up the next portion because, well, this video was going to take all day if I didn't. So some of these tips were badly matted, and so I just opened them up a little bit with my fingers as I was going, and they did fine. I was hoping that would help with the combing, but it didn't really. And here in just a moment, I decide to switch to recording in a time lapse, which is even faster. And I also changed the camera angle because, like I said, this is taking all day. And I got really tired of combing. I had to take a lot of breaks. This was very, very difficult to do. So yes, you can comb raw wool or rain-washed wool all you want, but it ain't going to be easy. Here I've switched to my older combs that have some bent tines, and they're much coarser than the mini combs. And about halfway through this, I decide to use the mini combs to comb off these because I just wasn't getting the transfer that I wanted, and veg matter was going between the tines and staying with the wool, and it just, yes, combing was easier because the tines were farther apart, but I was getting a less than ideal prep. So I ended up combing off with the Magic Craft mini combs. And that was okay, but it still wasn't ideal. I did get a lot more fiber off of those bigger combs, which is another bonus to having large combs. But I was, again, having so much trouble getting the wool off that I thought something else has got to be done. So I tried flicking, and this is my Magic Craft flicker that I am trying to get used to. It's totally different than what I usually use, but it works very well. And so I flicked and then loaded up onto the comb, and then I combed 2 passes instead of 4. That went a whole lot easier, a whole lot quicker. It was less painful on my body. I still had to pause and rest every few seconds, or yeah, I guess few seconds, and dry my hands occasionally and all that. But it was a million times easier than just combing. So that made a huge difference, and that's how I finished the rest of this. And now you get to see the little bits of me where I finished each combful. I thought this was a cute basket and I wanted to show it to you. I absolutely love this little basket. Thank you, Mom, for the basket. So, yes, as I progressed through the job, the little nest accumulated in the basket until I was just done combing. And then I decided to spin what I had, and that was all I was going to have. So this spun amazingly well. It drafts like butter. Oh my gosh. And the lanolin is fantastic. It was not gummy or sticky. It was perfect. And spinning is an absolute dream. Spinning in the grease. If you have a good fleece that's got the right amount of lanolin, it's not old sticky lanolin, but the good stuff, it's amazing. And this stuff spun up super fine. Like, I haven't spun this fine in a long time. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. Well worth the frustrations of combing to get this prep and be able to enjoy the spin as much as I did. I am blown away at how incredibly beautiful this is. And it didn't fluff a whole lot. When I washed it, I did scour, which when I scour fleece, I usually use my kitchen sink. I add boiling water to raise the temperature a bit, to my hot tap water, and I use power scour, and I let the wool soak for 8 to 15 minutes. I've heard if you have well water, you need to let it soak a lot longer than that. But I have city water, so it's nice and soft and does the job very quickly. This yarn, when I washed it, I just moved it around in the water for less than a minute probably, and then took it out and rinsed it, and it got really clean. So when you have yarn, it's a little easier to clean it, especially when it's been combed like this and then spun. It's a little easier to get clean, and the final yarn does not have lanolin in it, and it dried fairly quickly. So, as far as spinning goes, this is a win. It was absolutely delightful. I cannot say how much I enjoyed this spin. If you've never spun in the grease, I highly recommend you give it a try, whether it's combing, not recommended, flicking locks, drum carding, spinning from the cloud, whatever your preference is, just go for it. Try it out with a low lanolin fleece like these Jacobs and enjoy the process. It is fantastic. So I am chain plying this really fine thin yarn, the singles, and I don't know if I put this wheel together wrong, but I never have to loosen the handle or the upright in order to tilt it where I want it. I just kind of shove it. So I think I may have done something wrong when I was assembling my wheel because it moves too easily, but I like it that way and I can't complain. So a little bit of chain applying angles for ya. Chain plying is something that is very convenient if you're going from one single and you want a 3-ply. But other than that, and just sampling, I don't recommend a 3-ply. I don't recommend a chain ply. Come on, brain. A traditional 3-ply is more sturdy and is more consistent than a chain ply. That's what I'm trying to say. I've only been editing all morning. Yeah, I'll have to pardon the brain fog. There, I was really pleased because the colors transitioned at their perfect spot. I was not doing that on purpose, and in other places, there was one strand that was a different color, and I really liked the barber pulling that happened from that. So, overall, I can't say enough good stuff about this spin. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Highly recommend that you try spinning in the grease. And we're about done with part 1. So, I don't have that divided on the screen, but, that's what voiceovers are for, right? I'm getting a little tired of editing today. Anywho, this is the finished yarn on the bobbin. Beautiful stuff. But now I am going to card up the waist with my hand cards. There's not a lot of it, and I didn't feel like digging out the drum carder. So hand cards it is. And besides, if you have combs and hand cards, then you can replicate this with clean or dirty wool. It's up to you. But if you don't have a drum carder, you're not stuck. Dog brushes work just as well as a hand carders. I will be doing a series on that once again. It's been many years, so I'll probably be doing a video on that, or a whole series of videos on the different tools you can use, starting with the lowest budget to the highest budget. But it's so far written down as notes in a notebook, and we shall see when it ends up being a final produced video. I had forgotten. It's been so long since I hand carded. I forgot how much I enjoy this process. It would have been easier if the wool was not combing waste, as that is a bunch of really short stuff and the less than ideal stuff. But I still enjoyed the process, and this right here is my favorite part. I love to make these Rolegs like this. Absolutely my favorite Rolegs in the world, and they spin up so easily. However, this fiber was so bumpy lumpy, really short stuff, longer stuff, every single length, and a little bit of edge matter in it. It's combing waste. It's not the perfect stuff. We already spun that. So it's a lumpy, bumpy, floofy, fuzzy yarn, drastically different from the very worsted spun combed yarn that we chain plied. And it's also a little bit thicker. I actually spun I spun the combed wool first into a single, and then I spun this carded wool into a single and plied it, and then I went back and I plied the first one. But you didn't need to know that. Anyway, this single is spinning up, still really fine, but not as fine, and I found it was easier to let some twist in between the fingers into the drafting zone. I swear I know how to talk. At least I used to. We'll see if I still know how at the end of editing this video. You get a little crazy from me today, but this is a much longer voiceover than I typically do. So it is what it is, and you're getting 2 projects in one. So I just spun this however it wanted to be spun, and there was only like 3 or 4 Rolegs. So very quick spin, very short, and I got just a little sample of yarn, which was perfectly fine. I did figure 8 bracelet ply this. I did not show the struggle of moving it from one hand to the other because that was just too painful to force you to endure. I did wrap this pretty tight around my hand, and yeah, it didn't want to transfer. But anyway, plying was super easy, and I had a cameraman running the camera for this, so I'm super pleased to have had a little bit of help, and that made editing a million times easier. So that's really nice when you have someone behind the camera that can actually film the exact bit that you want to have shown. So I'm very pleased with that. Thank you, darling, for the help. And then, yeah. So super easy, super straightforward. And as you can see, not much yarn. Here is a comparison of the two. And with that, I will leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!